Hi, Shomik.
How are you
Good
doing?
evening again. Good, good. Can
Good
you hear me
evening.
now?
Yes, yes, loud and clear, loud and clear. And
Okay.
how's it going over there?
It's good, Shomik. It's good. Still, we're all in lockdown still, but
Exactly.
let's see. It's good. Keeping healthy, that's
Hopefully
it.
things should improve soon enough.
Absolutely. And things are going to improve, and just trying to stay
Yes.
healthy, back with the family and stuff like that.
No, good, good, good. So I was just telling the viewers that we are down to our final week of our Destination Discoveries Volume 4, where we have been, this week we've been focusing on the wildlife retreats and lodges. We had a lovely session right now where Shobha was in conversation with Mr. Dalip Okoi of JJR, Surya Ramachandran of Snow Leopard Lodges, Ratika Ramachandran of Swasara in Tadoba, and uh,
Hmm.
and Ali Rashid of Rainy Pani Jungle Lodge. So today, of course, we're talking about Samode Safari Lodge in Bandhavgarh. And the thing is that Bandhavgarh, of course, while it's known for its wildlife sightings and the big cat over there, however, our focus is more on the natural forest experiences that are available around Samode Safari Lodge. And Anshuman, nobody
Exactly.
knows this better than Anshuman because he's the lodge manager and he stays at the property throughout the entire season. So over to you, Anshuman. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Uh, Thank you so much, Shomik, and thank you for everyone joining in, and to Dare for giving us this opportunity to chat. So, talking about experiences, that's very true because the limelight in Bandhavgarh is tigers, and everyone flocks there to see the big cat, and that's the main
Yes.
focus. But at the lodge, uh, we try and keep away from, of course, tiger sightings are very important, keeping in mind, but there are other smaller things also. And Bandhavgarh is rich in flora and fauna as well. The history of Bandhavgarh is also very rich. So, being a naturalist there for 10 years, we try and give them a wholesome experience, taking them through everything from the small insects to termite mounds, the trees, the history of Bandhavgarh, and of course, uh, the tiger history, which is very important. Uh, there are leopards, there are wild dogs, and recently, what has unfolded in Bandhavgarh from the past year has been that we've got elephants, which is fantastic now,
Oh,
an
wow.
add-on. I mean, we are very happy. Uh,
I believe
Unfortunately,
this happened last year sometime, if I'm not mistaken. I remember I was there, in fact, when the
yes, absolutely.
elephants had kind of walked into the sanctuary.
Into the sanctuary, yes, and they're there to stay now.
Yes.
And it's been almost a year. Last March, 5th of March, uh, while I was on a full day game drive, I encountered a big bull and staying in the park for the whole day. And it happened so sudden because this news to our guests, we'd already told them because the park authorities were shutting down zones like Zone 3, Ketoli,
Yes.
where these elephants had come. And so we were switching from these zones, and going into Zone 1 and 2, where the park authorities were shut down Zone 3. Uh, so that afternoon, we had a fantastic morning, and the guests were static and good wildlife viewing and stuff like that. And photography also was happening throughout the day. But then somewhere around 3 o'clock, as the jeep started coming inside, and we were planning to leave a tiger sighting because we knew that everyone is going to flock on that
Yeah.
sighting, and so we were supposed to leave and take a break and go and do something else. Apparently, we were going to Zone 1 to view the Vishnu statue, and one of the jeeps just stopped and told us that there was a bull elephant close by next to a pan, watering hole, uh,
Okay.
and these watering holes are man-made by the government, and they fill water in it. And in the peak days, peak summer, we have animals approaching these watering pans. So we pulled over, and suddenly the guide from the back, the spotter Praveen, he says that there's something standing in that bush, and it was completely camouflaged, standing in.
Oh,
So
wow.
we stopped. We had a view, and then we had a greater sighting after that, and it was exciting for the guest, being there for so long. and it was a different experience altogether. I've seen elephants up north, back at the place where I'm from my childhood, but seeing it in central India, talking about it, hearing it from other people, uh, it was a great experience to share with the guests, and the guests were blown away. And I think these elephants are there to stay. We only have to work around it, because the government is not really sure how uh, the whole system is going to work, because right now the jeeps and the drivers and the naturalists were uh, trained not only for viewing tigers, but now they have to be trained in cases where elephants
Elephants are concerned.
are
And so
sighted,
since the elephants
concerned
are
as
there
well.
to stay, are they still, like before the entire lockdown scenario happened, were they still shutting down zones based on the movement of the elephants?
Yes, they were. They would send in a jeep prior to the game drive, early morning and late evenings, and which will give us an advance warning where the herd had been.
Okay.
Uh, Winter timing was fine because these elephants were traveling on the periphery of Zone 3, which is Kitoli,
Yeah.
towards Zone 1, on the periphery. So it was all on borders. But as the water shrinks coming in the summer, they are bound to come into the reserve, because that's where the perennial rivers flow, and that's where the water remains. So that's where they start coming in. So from March they started coming in more towards where Zone 3 and 2 uh,
Okay.
gates are. So that was it, and that was great. Coming back to my story, uh, I am from a very small village up in the north, which is in very close to the Nepal border, Uttar Pradesh. And I was born to a farming family. My father is a farmer, so I've been very close to nature from childhood.
All right.
And it was a great opportunity I got after my college. I I, uh, I dropped out of college, and it was Samode Hotels, which apparently gave me this first job. And somewhere I knew I had to do something like this, because I was uh, born in the wild, raised in the bush. Uh, I knew there was a passion which I had, but nothing was clear. But when this opportunity came by, I just had to join in, and
So you've been there
it's been a
right from
great
the beginning then. You're from the start for
right
you. It
from
has
right from
been
the beginning.
Samod.
Absolutely. From the time I've left 2007. I've left college, which was in Mumbai. I came straight to Samud. I was apparently one of my senior friends had joined uh, Taj. So
Okay.
Himanshu, he was working with Taj Safaris, and he was the one who gave me this thing that you come to Bandhavgarh and you can do this. So I looked into it. I had given my resume, and between that time I had met the owner in Jaipur, Yadvinder Singh ji, and jumped onto the opportunity right away. And from then, 2008 and 9, we built the property. 2010, we started operations. Yes.
So I guess there's been no looking back ever since.
No, it hasn't been unfortunate. Just and it's been a great experience since then. Just and from then from from the time I've been with someone, it has been a growing curve. I've not only learned to be a field guide, a naturalist, but also many other things I've learned from the owner, which has been looking into the hotel aspect of it as well. So so that has been great as well. Yeah.
So before we jump into the topic of the experiences and everything that's available around Samod Safari, if you can give a brief on the property, that would be great.
Absolutely. Sure. So Samud Safari Lodge, we are located on the western side of the whole reserve, the tiger reserve. And we are very close to a small village known as Mardari. We are 22-acre property, spread over an area of about 22 acres. We are built on only about 2.5 acres of land.
Okay.
Rest, everything else, we have left completely for the nature. So we've got a beautiful grassland growing with different species of grasses, and uh, each villa, we've got 12 villas spread over this 2.5 acre of land, and each villa is built on about 1,200 to 1,500 square feet of an area,
All right.
with a small drawing room, bedroom, a east-facing deck, and then we've got we've got a pool, which is a common area for all the 12 villas. We've got a dining
Okay.
area, but we never use the dining area, and you've seen it how, because
Yes, yes,
we
yes.
try and do different experiences for our guests.
Yes.
So
I've
till
heard
the
that.
time the guest stays with us, it's a different experience every night. Could be in the bush, could be close to the pool, with a different menu altogether, which is handcrafted by the owner and by the chef himself itself.
Yeah.
So that's about, and then we've got a main lodge area where the guest comes in. It's a very formal, informal sort of an area where we will greet the guest. We will introduce them to the naturalist. So we try and give one naturalist for one guest for one villa for their entire stay, so that they can experience his or hers uh, charismatic ways of exploring the nature and surroundings
Yeah, and this way
of
the guest
Bandhavgarh.
also gets the entire experience to be entirely unique for them, while they're staying over there.
Absolutely. While they're staying. And also, we've got over these years, we've got many repeats who are coming in there for certain naturalists because they've been with them for a very long time, and
Yes.
those naturalists also know them. It's like a family, home away from home. That's what we've used. This was one of a guest's line. A 9-year-old girl who had used it in our visitors book. She wrote a home away from home. So we've always tried to
Oh
keep
wow.
that or give that touch into our experiences as well. And we've got a beautiful spa as well. So if the guest wishes between the drives, they can use the spa as well. So that's us about
Okay,
the property. We
that's
are covered from two sides. We've got covered from buffer area. We've got a lot of animal movement coming in because we've kept the fences very low as per the rules are, and also we've
nice.
always believed that it's the animals' right because they were there before us. We've
Exactly.
come
Yeah.
after, so we've given them the passage, and we do have animal movement freely throughout, especially in the winters.
So what are some of the wildlife that are found and seen around the lodge? Like, do you have any resident animals over there?
We've got a lot of resident animals actually. Right now, before I left the lodge, there was a denning site of jackals. Past
Oh
six
wow.
7 years, me with my colleagues, we've been seeing this pair come in. Could be their young ones also who've come in because they've known the area because they were born there. So around room number 10 and 12, because they get this quieter place. So they've come in, they've denned for at least 5 years now. This was the fifth year, and I was
Oh.
hoping to see pups come out of there, but apparently with all the lockdown and stuff like that, I came back home, and so I'm getting news from the lodge that yes, the pups are there. So that's
Oh,
one. We've
so
got jungle
there
cat.
is a litter there then.
There is a litter there, absolutely. And we've got jungle cat, which is a resident there. In winters, we have a lot of movement of porcupines,
Okay.
civets. We had a resident civet living in our lodge. So just this May, as the lockdown went on, early May, we saw one of the evenings, we saw her come out from the crevices in the lodge where she was staying. And for the longest time, we were thinking there are pigeons there, but she was staying in
Okay.
the civet, palm civet. She was roosting there. So she came out and she gave us a good view. So we've got civets, we've got porcupines, big mammals. We've got deer coming in, sambar deer. Uh, uh, we've got spotted deer coming in. Uh, Many times we also have cats coming in. So trap camera has also shown many times they've triggered, and especially last March, we had a tigress walk in straight through our property while everyone was sleeping, because we put out camera trap to see what all goes on at night while we are asleep, and that's the best time to catch nocturnal activities, as everyone knows. So we had a
Yes.
tigress walk straight through uh, the onto a camera trap into her property, and early morning we saw her
Oh.
track. Of course, she had left that area till early in the morning, so there were no traces of her uh, in and around. But the guests have seen tigers in the property. times. We've tried to keep a safe distance. We've not tried to disturb them because there's a deck where you see the upper deck, closer to the lodge. You've seen that just onto the other side where the grassland is. That's where we've seen her from there. So no disturbance at all. She's gone through her business and gone off onto the other side. So we come into a small territory of a overlapping female tigress where she's a young one. Last 2 months there was not much of movement, but yes, winters we had a lot of alarm calls and a lot of stuff happening around the lodge. So there was action in that case. We had sloth pairs coming in on the northern tip of our borders, just as closer to the main gate. A lot of times we have adjacent watering hole. So the village people do fishery there. So we do get a lot of alarm calls later in the evening, especially in winters, by blue bulls and also by jackals, stuff like that. So there's a leopard, male leopard, which generally soars around December to say end Jan, Feb, early Feb, and we've heard him continuously for almost 3 years now. And so stays on the periphery, and of course male. There's one male tiger which also comes around and goes by like that. And then we've got 32 species of birds which are in our property because of the healthy grassland which I said.
As to what kind of bird life can one see at the Samode Safari Lodge while staying there?
We've got a lot of grass birds. We've got a red avidavid which is staying in the property because of the beautiful grasslands we've created for them. So they're found, and guests love photographing them because they're bright red colored birds flocking on just weeds of grasses, which the guests, sometimes it's very frustrating because it's a small bird, you have to stay there for really long, but it's completely paying off after you spend that half an hour patiently waiting for them and getting a good picture. Then we've got a lot of other 32 species of birds in and around the properties. We've got scops owl roosting or nesting in our property, closer to villa number 6. There's a beautiful fig tree there, so that's a great home. Plays a great home for these birds. So we've got 32 species, different species of birds, which generally
flying squirrel around in the area, because I remember when you were driving he always goes up that one tree and just keeps flying off. So
our guest will always, he's still there. Both of them are still there. The male gets a little lazier as the summer approaches because the guest will always laugh. The female pops out first. She's very punctual with timing, and she comes out first, goes up on the same branch. Wherever we point, she does almost the same stuff. Wherever we point, the guests are also like, wow, you know your stuff.
That's like a routine for them, yeah.
It's complete routine, and when we tell the guest this is their roosting spot, it's like, that's why you know all that. And the male takes his time, but yes, it's been almost 7 years now from the time first I spotted them there. It was 1 year in between where they got a little disturbed because that main road was being built till Bandhavgarh. So there was a lot of work going on. There was a lot of disturbance. So that year we could not find them. Of course, I saw them on the other side foraging and could not find their roost. They had changed their roosting site. But yes,
but it's good to know that
after that.
Then.
Yes, absolutely. And I was pretty sure because every time, even that year when the road was being built, every evening all our naturalists used to go stand there at least for 5-10 minutes, depending on, we've left drives, evening drives, afternoon drives, come back earlier just to see them. Many of our friends and guests, they wanted to see, because flying squirrel is one thing which is very little documented properly. And once you get to see them so close, coming out of their roost, and doing gliding, just going above your head, it's a fantastic experience.
Yeah.
So when the guest wants to do that,
that is something that not everyone actually gets a chance to see. And even for us, that evening, I remember it was rather dark by the time we got there, and we still managed to get just a silhouette of that little one flying across. It was
absolutely,
a fantastic experience.
experience, exactly. And this is what we as naturalists hope for, the wow factor when the guests, they gobsmack, or they're just like, wow. These are the little moments which may make the experience a wholesome experience, where we've had many guests who've told us in the afternoon drive, let's go and do that, while we're waiting. I think uh, they've asked me that, will it come out? Now, animals are one thing that we can't be really sure of. We can take you on the right spot, but it is
That's
not
true. Yeah.
100% that they'll come out or not. So many times the guests have said, let's go and see the flying squirrels. Are they 100%? So I always say they are 100%. And we go and stay there for 5-10 minutes just before their time of that crepuscular hour, where just they're about to come off. And that it's just a second flash. They're gone off.
Yeah, it is.
They
It
do
is
that
just
little
like a
dance which you've
split
seen.
second when they jumps off.
Split second. It's very quick, but that wait and that moment when they come into uh, being climbing up, and that glide from across, which is just about, say, 15 feet to the other side,
Approximately. Yeah, that's
is an
just about it.
experience.
Yeah.
Just an experience for the guest, and a wow moment for them. So yeah, and we've made sure that every guest staying at the lodge see it. So that's great. Yeah, and they're still there.
No, it is a lovely
Absolutely.
experience, and even I'm so happy I got a chance to see that when whilst my stay there. So,
Yeah.
talking about other experiences, of course, it's always lovely to know about the wildlife and the birding experiences that guests can do. But other than that, you have other experiences. You've got walking experiences, you've got cycling experiences that guests can do around Samode Safari Lodge. So, if you could elaborate a little bit about those as well.
Yes, absolutely, Shomik. We've got 2 or 3 different trails in and around the property. So, like I said, one trail is we've made a trail just on the periphery of our property, where you can go around watching these birds which are staying, inhabiting our lands. And then 2 trails are outside the property. One goes through the village, which is approximately about 1 hour 15 minutes. So now we are adjacent to a very beautiful, untouched Gond and a Bega mixed village, which is Mardari. So the beauty of the village is that they've kept the houses completely in the oldest style. They've got tiles which are made from clay. They've got under that they've got bamboo layering, and then they've got beautifully patched, mud patched walls, insulated walls, and
Oh,
these bricks are also made locally every year. It's a very hard way of living, but they're used to it, and it's a great way for them. So we've also got inspired by that. So our complete surrounding and the exteriors of the lodge are blended with the local community, how they've done it, because it's a great inspiration. Insulated walls, winters, their home, you when the temperatures plummet to about 2 or 3 or even 0, freezing frosty cold in the morning, it's warm in their houses. It's surprising because of the insulated walls. Summers, it's nice and cool because it's breathable. So now this village offers a great insight to their world, and we've employed almost about 90% of the staff from in and around villages which work with us. So one of the boys will accompany us. Rajkumar is his name, and we take you through the village. You get to see how they live, because they've been there. They've owned these lands for a very long time. They've got into farming, and so we show you around their community. We do a little bit of chat because it's interesting to understand their lifestyle in their manner, with staying so close. Many times the guest cannot understand how close a tiger can come to these settlements, uh, and it's when you get so close to and when you get in conversation with older people in the villages, then when we translate it to the guest, and they are shocked that a tiger just walked by in those lanes at night. That's how close these animals have coexisted for a very long time, for generations, in the past, in and around these villages. So that's a beautiful walk for about 1 hour 15 minutes, seeing the community, chatting with them. In the evening also, it's a great time because you're seeing cattle come from the forest, So you see Gaudhuli happening, and interesting stuff. Lots of experiences, chatting with people. Sometimes you ask them experiences of what happened in the whole day. What did you get to see in the park? Sometimes nothing. Sometimes it's tigers. Many times on walks, these walks, we've encountered injured cow. So the story when unfolded was that the tiger had caught the cattle, and the lady and a woman, almost about 76-year-old, and her grandson was able to rescue the cow because it's a source of milk for them. It's very important. They do get compensated for it, but it's very important for them. So they could rescue it from the tiger, and she survived. So such experiences the guests take back when we give her insight on the village life as well. And then slowly coming into, they're quite self-sustained. So they've got a beautiful kitchen garden. They grow everything seasonal, vegetables and stuff like that. So they don't really need to go to the town for anything like vegetables and all. And barter system still prevails, which is great to see nowadays. Things are going to, and especially with this pandemic happening, we'll understand more accurately also that self-sustaining is the way of going ahead. True. Especially with lodgings like us and stuff like that.
Yes.
So that's one walk which gets us back.
That's the direction everyone will actually have to go into nowadays, given the current scenario.
Absolutely. So that's one.
Yes. Carry on.
So that's one. That's a beautiful walk which comes back into a property. We finish back, and yeah. So
excellent. Of course, we talk a lot about stories that every hotelier has. So if you have a story to share, which is personal to you, something from around the property itself.
I've got many experiences. I think my greatest experience was coming into the hotel industry with Samode Safari Lodge. How I got introduced to it because of Samode Safari Lodge. Earlier, I only thought that I'll be a field guide or a naturalist and stuff like that. But how I got involved with the hotel thing and the inspiration from the owner was great. And so that was it has been a great experience, a learning curve, basically. I can say something different from wildlife experiences. I think I've always been quite intrigued by seeing a cat at night. When you're on safaris, you generally see tigers in the daytime, but when you see them at night, it's a different feeling altogether, or even for that matter, leopard. So one of the nights we checked in the guests really late, and we were walking back, me and Priya, my wife Priya, we were walking back from the lodge, and there were a lot of calls just on the periphery of the property. And Jamuna, who's the head F&B in charge, he tells me that he's heard a lot of calls and there could be a tiger around, and Sambar were calling from within our property. So and the calls grew stronger and stronger by the time. And as we checked in the guests and all, they were also wondering, is like, what's that? Why is that what's that honking noise and this and that? So I explained to them, and it was a very it was a great moment, but scary moment, because they've come, their flight got delayed in Delhi. It was winter time, it was misty, stuff like that. So they were in for a shock because and they'd been to Africa. So such things do happen in Africa where you're escorted. So which I was aware of, luckily, and we told the guests that we'll escort you. We took them to their villa, which was very close by, Villa 4. Checked them in, and straight away started walking back to little quarters where we stay within the property. And suddenly we saw this flashlight. I saw these stripes moving, and we had to walk at least 300 meters to get to our little quarters where we stay within the property. And we saw these stripes moving So I told Prem, I was like, we have to keep moving. We can't go back and sleep in the lodge. And there was this big male tiger which had walked in our property, which we got to see in the night. And from a distance, we saw the eyes. So as he saw us, he actually settled down just, say, about 200, 300 meters from us. There was a dry riverbank, the rivulet which runs through our property. He just settled down on a corner of it. There was a dry lump of grass lying. He settled down behind it. We could just see the forehead, the ears pop out, and the eyes. And he kept an eye on us. And we kept walking straight. And I can't tell you, Shomik, an experience of that sort is not is chilling. It's scary at the same moment. I had my wife along with me, of course.
Yeah.
And but it was thrilling at the same time, because I've always wanted to see a cat on foot. Foot experiences are very different from safari experiences, because you're in that comfort of the car. But when you're on a foot and experiencing wildlife, especially wild animals, and these animals are very clever. They give you space first. That's the respect which I have for these cats for a very long time, because when I was 8, that was the first time I saw my first cat with my grandfather, a tiger. And from then that respect has been installed. But still, till date, when I saw the tiger give us way first, the respect has gone. And we always think that we're experts in the field, and but they'll do something like that to always shock you, and keep loving them. When they do such a thing, you always fall in love with them all the time and every time. So that
It's a
was,
matter of being in
I think,
awe of these creatures, because and I'm pretty sure, as correct me if I'm wrong, they say that even before you have seen the cat has seen you 1,000 times. So you
absolutely,
can only imagine
absolutely.
that by the time you got a chance to see the tiger would have noticed you much before that.
Much
Yeah.
before that, exactly. And I kept telling Priyam, when we started walking from room number 4, I was like, this, if it is a tiger, he has seen us much before then even we'll get to see it. It was just that the paths were crossing the fenced area, because that dry riverbed allows them to go under the fence, because like I said earlier, the fence is very small. We've kept it to about only 5 feet. So, and the easier way of going out of it is also jumping first, or also using these dry riverbeds, because you can go under the fence. So that's what he was going to do eventually, and that's what he did, of course, because we saw tracks in the dry riverbed the following morning. But it was a fantastic experience, and I think that stayed with me every time whenever I go for a morning drive, early morning drive. There's always this little thought that someone is watching you, because it's dark.
Yes.
And you're heading out for the morning game drive, and so generally we brief the guest also accordingly. We are in their area, and we've got to respect that factor. And so that was a thrilling experience. And from then, many times onwards, we've seen a cat. Recently, this January, we were walking back, and there was a male tiger walking just on the outside of the periphery. We just got to see the eyes, and boy, that was, by the time I ran to the...
It was dark again.
It was dark again. It was dark, and we could hear footsteps approaching very close to the fence. Same dry riverbed, and Priyam also heard it very clearly coming, because sambar deer, heavy animal, big animal, hooves always make noise. Either they jump, it'll make a thumping noise, and even when they walk with a slight noise. They run carelessly because they've got a weak eyesight. But this walk was very silent till the time it had approached a dry leaf bed.
Dry leaf bed, yeah. That's the only time. That's the only giveaway for them, I guess.
Yes, and it had understood. It knew that आवाज हो रही है. Exactly, it's given its location away. But then it moved so quietly and jumped, and then everything became silent. And I told Prem, I again held her hand. I was like, it's probably it's a cat, because this is not something like what a deer does or anything. So when we moved on, there's a massive jamun tree outside our property. So just behind it, a thick lantana cover was a great place for it to just sit and wait for us to move on. And as we came on parallel to it, I flashed my light, and there it was. Just you could see the forehead, eyes, round, big, just on the sides, how cats have stuff like that, popping ears. So I was pretty sure it was nothing else but a tiger. Quietly just gave it way. Went and told all my colleagues that, because it was 50 meters away from where we stay, and
That's
yeah, and the
not the
dogs were
same as
going
300
crazy.
meters also anymore.
No, it is not. But the thing was that the fence is there. The fence was still there. So, and it was across the fence. So Priyam kept saying that, luckily the fence is there. Let's move. And again, the second incident, again, it gave us way. It sat down. It didn't come. It didn't charge us, or it didn't, do anything to harm us or something like that. It gave us way. And I don't know how many times we would have walked across such incidences, just ignoring a cat sitting next to us. Many of my colleagues I've spoken to who worked in different national parks, who've had different experiences walking through their camps, and these animals sitting across. So that's bound to happen when you're in that space.
And if I'm not mistaken, when I was there last year, I remember you. I think you showed us one of those fences where you said that where the tiger had actually jumped across, and
Yeah,
you
yeah.
showed us the hair, the hair that was left behind of the tiger from the paws and all.
Just
If I'm
from the
not
belly, yeah,
mistaken.
absolutely.
Yes, yes,
Absolutely. So
yes.
that's the spot. That's the exact spot. And
Yeah,
we've been
yeah.
putting trap cameras from then, actually, because the fields of the people in the village are just across, and so they cordon off their fields with bamboo sticks and dry lantana and stuff like that. So cleverly, because if a wild boar or anything gets in, it makes a crackling noise, so they can wake up and shoo them out. So I think
Yeah.
because of the food prey and such stuff, even the tiger follows them. So the sambar from there, for security and safety, they jump in. Many winters, we've had fawns born and brought up in our property. So you'll see. I'll see during evenings. Somebody will report that there are 3 females in that area of the property.
Yes.
Somebody will say 4, stuff like that. There's always been a big male who stayed in and around a property. Always. This year also, I saw him in winters. Because because in summers the grasses die out completely. We also do the burning, so we try and flush them out because they should not get disturbed, and we want the new grass species to come up.
Yes.
Seedlings to come up, actually. So I think following that, these cats come in, and especially fawns, when they're born in and around a property, the female sambar, when they jump from that area, that's where the scent trail these cats come in and follow. And tigers, when
Oh,
they
okay.
jump in over fences, generally you'll see they'll put their back paws. They'll just, because jumping for cats 9-10 feet is easy.
That's easy.
But this
Yeah.
is just a 5 feet. That's a 5 feet long fence, high fence. So just leaps up, puts the
So
hind
yeah, I
paws,
guess when they
and then
jump up, it's the hind
straight
legs
in.
that go hit
So
the fence
yeah,
first.
here's the fence first. So that's the same spot which you're talking about, right?
Well, unfortunately, we are short in time, but I'm sure these conversations can go on for hours and hours.
Absolutely, Shomik.
Before we put an end to this, I would really appreciate it because given the current scenario with the lockdown and COVID-19, everyone wants to know what all our hotels are actually doing, keeping COVID-19 in mind. So, what are the necessary steps that Samode Safari Lodge is planning to take? Just wanted to check.
Uh, we are still working on it.
All right.
We are still working on it, and I think we'll be coming up with because it's something which has come on to us all of a sudden. It has never happened. Speaking to the owners, also, he was saying that it's never happened to him for so many years. So let's see what we come up with. But of course, there will be a lot of changes coming about with social distancing, especially. I can't think of safaris with social distancing. So it's going to be very difficult to come up with something, and I don't want to say something which is which won't be applicable or we won't be doing. So
All right.
I think we'll come to know as we open up the lodge. We'll be floating stuff around and also
All right.
sharing it with you as well and all our guests to make them feel safer back at the lodge. And hope to see everyone soon again. And yeah.
Same. I'm hoping to come by again and experience everything
Absolutely,
all
Shomik.
over again because that was one hell
All
of a
over.
thrilling experience for me back then.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's always fun that when we it was initial days of my guiding when Yadu back at the camp, who was a head guide then, Yadunath Sen, he told me that if you can convert a, a novice completely into a wildlifer or fall in love with wildlife, I
Yes.
think we all can sleep well that night as field guides and stuff like that. And it's a great experience also for us
Yes.
that we make get that changes into people as well. So yes, absolutely. Most welcome
Super.
back, and we'll be happy to host everyone.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Anshuman. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank
It
you
was
so much,
a
Shomik.
lovely session. Have a good
Thank you,
day.
Shomik. It was lovely. Have a good day.
Yes. Goodbye.
Bye. Cheers.